you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Keep our college football over-under win total preview shows going. Yes, I know I just said it, but for people who are new to this show or this channel, this is different than the Aaron Torres pod, which we do 3 or 4 times a week. We have a college football betting specific YouTube channel where we preview all the big games. And here in July and August, we're doing team-by-team previews of all the big teams. If you missed any of our SEC coverage, Georgia, Bama, Texas, Oklahoma, check them out. We've hit a few Big Ten teams, Penn State included. Today, though, we got to start in the college football capital of the world, at least for right now. That is Columbus, Ohio. Credit Ohio State. They are the defending national champions. Exciting season ahead. Let's talk Ohio State. Before we do, a quick reminder, make sure that you are following our Torres on Ohio State Twitter page, Torres on Ohio State, for all your late-breaking Ohio State coverage. By the way, if you are an Ohio State student who wants to intern and help run the page, you can reach out to me at Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. All right, let's get into Ohio State. And, you know, what's interesting is with these previews, we tend to do a lot of looking back to contextualize the season ahead. I don't think that we need to do that with Ohio State, right? We know what was at stake coming into last year, the money that was spent in NIL, the transfers that were brought in, the players that were retained, the coaching staff that was put together. It was natty or bust going into the season. We knew what was at stake, and I'll be honest, for most of the season, Ohio State lived up to those expectations. They start 5-0. There's that game in mid-October at Oregon. Yeah, they ended up losing, but questionable pass interference call. I don't think it was pass interference, but neither here nor there. Listen, 12-team playoff era, you can go on the road and lose to a good team. Not a big deal. To their credit, Ohio State comes back, and it wasn't perfect from there, but they beat the teams they're supposed to. They beat Nebraska. They go to Penn State and get the victory. And, of course, in Week 11, or in their 11th game anyway, it's easy to forget they destroyed a top 10 Indiana team, and it feels like the game, the rivalry, the school up north, it's going to be a coronation, and then all hell breaks loose. You don't need me to tell you what happens. You lose as a 21.5-point home underdog, but it doesn't change the fact that no matter what happened after that, in that moment, it felt like, oh my goodness, we could have a volcano of change at Ohio State. What's going to happen to Ryan Day? What's the future? They got to win against Tennessee. Well, here's the good news. You destroy Tennessee in the opening round of the college football playoff. From there, I think the game where everybody was like, oh yeah, Ohio State's going to be just fine. You destroy Oregon in the Rose Bowl. I was thinking about this. It's easy to forget it now. Remember the Peach Bowl, Texas, Arizona State was before Ohio State, Oregon. The Peach Bowl goes into double overtime. By the time ESPN got to the Rose Bowl, guess what? Ohio State was in complete control. The game was over. They beat Texas on the scoop and score in the semifinals. Jack Sawyer, forever a legend if he wasn't before, and they close it out. Once they got to Notre Dame, I don't think there was any way they were losing it. Credit to that team. Credit to that program. They win a national championship. It was natty or bust. The monkey's off Ryan Day's back. All the credit in the world. With that said, it certainly led to an interesting offseason where there was certainly quite a bit of change throughout the program. First of all, I think it's important to note 2 new coordinators. Chip Kelly gets an insane offer to be the Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator. What is the number, Ohio State fans? Is it like $4 million, $5 million, somewhere in there a year? I think I was told Ryan Day basically said, you cannot turn down that money. Go coach for Pete Carroll. So Brian Hartline now the offensive coordinator. And of course, Jim Knowles leaves for the conference rival. Matt Patricia comes in as the defensive coordinator. You also have 14 players drafted, most notable players off of last year's team, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, a bunch of defensive guys. And so I bring it up because there's a lot of change, but it does not change expectations coming into this year. So let's look ahead to this 2025 Ohio State Buckeyes team. On offense, listen, I think the big story, and it's always worth noting, we're recording this in early August, so stuff could change, stuff may change, but right now, Julian Sayin is the projected starter at quarterback. This is a former 5-star player. We all know he committed to Nick Saban in Alabama. When Nick Saban retires, he enters the transfer portal. I thought, I did watch the spring game, looked pretty good in my opinion, 17 of 24 passing. And the good thing for Julian Sayin, or whoever wins the starting quarterback job, again, don't get mad at me if stuff has changed, if you're listening to this in late August, mid-August, whatever. But he should have plenty of talent around him, right? The running back room is certainly going to look different without Henderson and Judkins, but it doesn't change the fact that there is still plenty of talent there. Obviously, the notable name there, James Peoples, is back, 49 carries, 197 yards, 2 TDs a season ago. Intrigued by CJ Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia, almost 800 yards rushing 2 years ago, right around 800 a season ago, back-to-back seasons of double-figure rushing touchdowns. And so the running back room was nicely restocked through the transfer portal. And then you get to the wide receiver room, and you talk about it doesn't matter who's at quarterback, because guess what? You're throwing a number 4, Jeremiah Smith. And I'll say this. I was thinking about this with Jeremiah Smith. Listen, we don't want to be too hyperbolic. I don't think you could be too hyperbolic with Jeremiah Smith. And it was funny. I was thinking about this. Have you guys ever seen the video of Bobby Knight talking about Michael Jordan after he coached him in the Olympics in 1984? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Okay. But there was a video where Bob Knight is asked about Michael Jordan, and he says, greatest this, greatest that. And Bob Knight says, that's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. Bob Knight, before Michael Jordan played in the NBA, calling Michael Jordan the greatest basketball player he's ever seen. And that's kind of Jeremiah Smith, right? We're not saying he is the greatest wide receiver. He's still got a lot of work to do at Ohio State to catch up to, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison. But you see the tools, you see the trajectory, and most importantly, you see what is on the screen. First team All-American a year ago, 76 catches, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. I know they played 17 games. I don't care. This dude is a freak. He is the ultimate security blanket. Oregon, which has pros on pros on pros, had no answer for him among others. Just shows you how special he is. And oh, by the way, he's clutch, obviously catching the big play that ultimately leads to the victory against Notre Dame. Wide receiver core beyond him, I think it's easy to forget, is deep and talented as well. I know Ohio State fans certainly don't forget about that. But Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss are stars. And then I think the interesting name to know, as you can see on that screen, Max Clare, transfer from Purdue, third team All Big Ten, 51 catches, 684 yards, 4 TDs, all of those categories, all of those stats, led Purdue 17 straight games with multiple catches. And you talk about a security blanket for Julian Sayin. If Jeremiah Smith ain't open deep, find Max Clare. I think he's kind of the forgotten guy on that offense. O-line, there's obviously a lot of new faces. The transfer from Rice is obviously the notable name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I apologize, Ohio State fans. But we all know how good that young man is after becoming a 3-year starter with over 2,200 snaps at Rice. Defensively, listen, a lot of new faces, including the coordinator. I'll be real. I don't even know what to expect from Matt Patricia. Was the boy genius, goes to become the head coach of the Detroit Lions. It doesn't work out. Then Belichick brings him back and puts him in charge of the offense. It was a weird deal. But I know there's talent. I trust this program and the infrastructure that he's walking into. By the way, again, if you are in Ohio State, first of all, follow Torres on Ohio State for all your late-breaking Ohio State news. But also, if you're a student that wants to do an internship for internship credit, hit me up at Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. All right. So Ohio State's defense. Yes, they lost a lot, but that group was elite last year. Number 1 in the country in scoring defense, number 3 in total defense, number 3 in rush defense, number 3 in pass defense. Admittedly, they lost a lot. Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, the list goes on and on. But you know what the list goes on and on with? Players who are ready to step up and play a bigger role than they did a year ago. Defensive line, a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces. Kenyatta Jackson back after a season where he had 3 TFLs, 1.5 sacks. Edric Houston, a former 5-star. Now, I want to note this. He was banged up right before we started recording this. I did see an update from Ryan Day that basically said he should be expected back at practice. So by the time you listen to this, he may be fine. He may have been practicing for a week or 10 days. Again, we're recording early August here, right as training camps open. I think the other big name to know along that defensive line, you can see him there, Bo Atkinson, transferring in from Notre Dame, 12 TFLs, 7.5 sacks a year ago. The crazy part is he was not an every down kind of player. He only averaged about 28 snaps per game. I think Ohio State will use him more than Mac Brown, and the UNC staff did a season ago. This is a kid that could potentially be an early round pick in the next NFL draft, but he is the star out of the portal class on defense. Linebacker group, I think the name that everybody should know, and I think, listen, again, Ohio State fans, this preview is for everybody, not just you. Again, you guys already know the name Sonny Styles, multi-year starter, 100 tackles, 10 and a half TFLs, 6 sacks a year ago. That guy has All-American type season ahead of him, kind of an All-American type season ahead of him. And the rest of the linebacker group, a lot of new faces. Arvell Reese is another new name. You get to the secondary, though, that's where a lot of the experience really is. Davison Igbinosun, great season a year ago, 45 tackles, 9 PBUs at the cornerback position, 2 interceptions. Jermaine Matthews, another corner who had a nice season last year. And then we know who the secondary is led by. We know who the defense is led by. Caleb Downs. I mean, you talk about a guy that transferred in with so much hype coming in last season. I believe the stat coming into last year was he was the first true freshman to ever lead Alabama in tackles. Well, he comes in, he becomes the face of the defense, All-American, 82 tackles, 49 solo tackles, 7 TFLs, 6 PBUs, 2 interceptions. This guy's as good as advertised, and I know this is a natural talking point on Ohio State, but best player on offense in college football with Jeremiah Smith, best player on defense with Caleb Downs. I don't even think it's debatable, to be perfectly honest, so there is an awful lot of talent there. Let's go ahead and look at the schedule, and I think first noteworthy thing on the schedule, again, we are recording right after the coaches poll comes out. It is before the AP poll comes out. So again, subject to change. But in the coaches poll, Texas at Ohio State week 1 is a matchup of 1 versus 2. Texas, the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State number 2. And when you look at this schedule, not easy. It's never going to be easy in the Big Ten. But once you get past Texas, 4 of your first 5 are at home. The noteworthy road game is at Washington, but even the game at Washington, you get a bye before you have to travel cross country. And then from there, I think October into November is going to kind of define who this team is. You play at Illinois. A lot of people think Illinois is a trendy kind of playoff dark horse, number 12 in the first coaches poll. At Wisconsin, I think is kind of a tricky one, right? Because you have at Illinois, then you have to go to Wisconsin. Then you get a bye before you play Penn State off of the bye. So look at that. That's a 4-week stretch where you do not play at home. You play Illinois, Wisconsin, bye into Penn State. So I guess the only point I'm trying to make is, could Wisconsin be a trap game? Luke Fickell, of course, Ohio State fans very familiar with, kind of a make or break year for Luke Fickell. I think most of November after Penn State should be pretty smooth sailing at Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. Then you got to go to the school up north, Michigan. We know the status. We know the situation. 4 straight losses. You don't need me to tell you. Got to get this one. This is basically the only, monkey still on Ryan Day's back. You win the national championship. You prove all the critics wrong. The only thing you got to do at this point is you got to beat that school up north, and we'll see what happens with that game. Overall, Ohio State over-under win total. According to DraftKings Sportsbook, it's 10.5. Now, I'm going to be totally transparent with you. 10.5 to me feels, I can't bet it. It's the highest win total in college football. Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State are all at 10.5. But listen, I think Ohio State proved you don't have to be 11-1. You don't have to be 12-0 to make the playoff in this era. And once you get in, the question is Ohio State good enough to win the national championship? The answer is unequivocally, yeah, they are. And so when I look at this Ohio State team, listen, the over-under win total is a way to contextualize what to expect in the regular season. But Ohio State's one of the few teams that they're not really judged by the regular season. The expectation is be in position to win a national championship, and I think they will at the end of the year. Now, in terms of do I think they can go over that win total of 10.5? I do, because you look at the schedule. Listen, it's not easy, but Texas week 1, Arch Manning's first road start of his career. Listen, I am among many, and I feel like this has become more of a sentiment as the summer goes on and people peel back the layers on Arch Manning. It's like, why are we convinced Arch Manning is going to be so good? Because he was good against UL Monroe? Because he was good against Mississippi State? Yeah, I'd say 100,000+ people in the shoe is going to be a completely different deal, okay? But you look at the schedule. You get Arch Manning, first career road start. Obviously, look, there are some tricky games along the way at Washington, at Illinois, but you get Penn State at home. That is a team that you have dominated, and we've done our Penn State preview. I get why people are high on Penn State. James Franklin and his staff have to prove it to me, because I am not going to buy into them until I see it. And part of that is they haven't proven they could beat Ohio State in a decade plus. And even that Ohio State win a decade ago at this point was a fluky, weird thing that has not been replicated. So you own Penn State. You get Texas at home in week 1. And then that last game of the year, listen, if there's ever a game to be motivated for, it's going to be that one. And we don't know what Michigan's going to be. Bryce Underwood is a true freshman that is being expected to start early in his career. So I just bring it up because, listen, if I actually had to bet it, it sounds crazy considering they lost all the talent that they did. I kind of would lean over, because I think if you judge 2 out of those 3 games, I think they're going to get 2 out of those 3 wins, whether it's Arch Manning in Texas, whether it's Penn State, who you own at home, or whether it's the grudge match revenge game against the school up north. So my Ohio State prediction is, listen, is it 10-2? Is it 11-1? I don't know. They're a playoff team to me. And once they get in, are they good enough? Absolutely. All right, I'll tell you what, I think that's it for this episode of College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. Our preview of Ohio State is in the books. Couple things. One, next time we talk Ohio State, we're probably previewing week 1 against Texas. So make sure that you're subscribed to the College Football Betting podcast and YouTube channel. YouTube, you just click that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Apple, Spotify as well. If you're an Ohio State student and you want a cool internship, come work for me. Torres on Ohio State will get you some internship credit. Reach out. Aaron Torres podcast questions at gmail.com. By the way, the last person to do that internship, now working in college football, don't want to say where, but it's a cool internship. You'll have fun. That's all for today's show. We'll be back. I think we're going to do a little pivot out of the Big Ten, but stay in Big Ten country with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They'll be our next preview. If you've missed any of our other ones, make sure to check them out. We'll see you next episode of College Football Betting.